So guys, let me check. Live is started. Yeah. Okay. So we are live now. And so let me share a quick introduction. Okay. So what we are going to see. Okay, so this is episode 2. We are reviewing the sleep podcast of Dr. Huberman, and the guest is Dr. Matt Walker. He is a very genius. He is a basically sleep scientist, and Dr. Huberman you already know, and if you don't know, I already discussed very detailed how Dr. Huberman impact my life, and also I discuss about the sleep scientist Dr. Matt Walker. If you didn't watch the episode, please go and watch. But in this episode, we'll talk about, we'll review, we will see the tools or how to improve our sleep. Basically, we will see the protocol that how can we improve our sleep. Apart from that, on the previous podcast, we saw that the basic fundamental science of sleep is very essential. So, if you want to improve your sleep, very, very, very essential that you first understand the sleep. What is sleep actually, right? What are the hormones and blah blah blah. But in this podcast, in the episode 2, we'll be seeing some various protocols, maybe some of tools. Okay, so let's get started.
Welcome to the Huberman Lab guest series, where I and an expert guest discuss science and science-based tools for everyday life. I'm Andrew Huberman, and I'm a professor of neurobiology and ophthalmology at Stanford School of Medicine. Today marks the second episode in our 6-episode series all about sleep with our expert guest, Dr. Matthew Walker. During today's episode, we discuss the do's and the do-nots of sleep, focusing, for instance, on how to use light and absence of light, as well as temperature, both of your sleep environment specifically, the room you're in, your body temperature, and much more in order to regulate the timing and quality of your sleep. And we discuss how things like alcohol, caffeine, and cannabis impact sleep and the various stages of sleep. And we discuss the various tools that exist now and that are rapidly becoming available to improve your sleep. This episode is essential for anyone trying to optimize their sleep. And when I say optimize your sleep, I mean trying to optimize the formula that was addressed in the first episode of the series, which is the QQRT formula, the quality, quantity, regularity, and timing of your sleep.
So the previous podcast we saw that the most concept lies on the QQRT. QQRT is a concept. You should understand this concept. This is very essential to understand the sleep science. And but in this episode, you are saying that we will be seeing some of protocol, what to do, what to, don't, and this kind of things we'll share.
4 variables that combine to determine whether or not your sleep is optimized for you and thereby providing the most restoration and improvement to your mental health, physical health, and performance. Before we begin, I'd like to emphasize that this podcast is separate from my teaching and Walker. Professor Matt Walker, welcome back. We're all so happy to have you here. And in episode 1, you beautifully described the biology of sleep, why sleep is important, what happens when we don't get enough sleep, and you incentivized getting adequate amounts of great sleep. And you defined what great sleep is, and you provided some excellent practical protocols and tools for getting great sleep. However, today you're going to tell us, I believe, about the protocols for really optimizing one's sleep, both conventional tools and protocols and some, let's say, unconventional not heretical, but unconventional tools for optimizing one's sleep. So let's start with the basics. What are the basics of what I think I've heard you refer to previously as sleep hygiene?
Yeah, I think many of us can resonate with the idea of dental hygiene, but it turns out there's something called sleep hygiene. And there are probably, I would say, 5 edicts.
So if you don't know what is sleep hygiene, I also put this term. What is that? But let me search on that. Okay. So what is that? Now let's search on that. What is these things? Right? Basic of sleep hygiene. So sleep hygiene is a set of practices that help you to fall asleep or stay asleep regularly. Sleep hygienes, yeah. Hygienes means like you have to practice kind of protocol or routine. You are following some kind of protocol or routine. Those things is called hygiene. So basic of sleep hygiene. I mean basic of sleep habit. Okay, that's the thing.
Of sleep hygiene. I offer them as tools and not necessarily rules, because I don't think people respond to rules. People respond to reasons and not rules. So if it's okay, I'll probably just unpack each one of them rather than just sort of bark them at you and hope people assume that it's the right answer. I'll explain the answer so people understand why it's important. So as I said, there are probably 5 things that you can start doing tonight to try to improve your sleep. The first we've spoken a little bit about in that first episode. It's part of the 4 macros of good sleep. First piece of advice, regularity. Go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time.
Yeah. So I already told you, right, in the episode 1 that my chronotype. I talked about chronotype, and I am a night owl. That I used to go to bed 1 or 2 a.m. and I'm not a morning person, so that's why I wake up 9 to 10 a.m. But yeah, so regularity is very important, and you are you are a morning person. Your routine may be 11 to 7 or 10 to 6 a.m., something like that. But yeah, so the point is regularity is very important. That's why I set the alarm. Right, you can see 1:30. I used to go to bed 1:30 and my wake up time is 9:30. Okay. So regularity, set your alarm right now. Okay.
No matter whether it's the weekday or the weekend, regularity is king. And the reason is because when you feed your brain the signals of timed regularity for your sleep, it will anchor your sleep and improve the quantity and the quality of that sleep. Because part of that signal of regularity going into your brain in terms of that repeated behavior night after night, sleep, in other words, helps train that central 24-hour circadian clock that we also spoke about in the first episode.
But I wanna tell you a disclaimer, okay? So the thing is, it's not healthy. My routine is not healthy, but I try to improve my routine. However, I am a night owl, and that's why I am trying, or I have been trying to actually, I want to go to bed at 12 a.m. Then I want to wake up 8 or maybe 8:30 a.m. So that's my goal actually. In the last month, at the end of April, I'm sure that I will reach that goal. and my sleep schedule will be 10 a.m. to 8 a.m. most probably, okay? But I'm saying you that you have I have also insomnia, something kind of unhealthy things. I mean, yeah. So that's why my routine is messed up with sleep, but I have been improving. That's the beautiful things. And improving your life is very essential.
So that's the first piece of advice. Try to keep it as regular as you possibly can. The second piece of advice is darkness. In my view, we are a dark, deprived society in this modern era.
Okay, so darkness is very important because, yeah, so in my case, right, I used to, when I go to bed, then I used to turn off all the windows, obviously, and then I put it some window cover into the window, because if I open the window cover, then some light will come into my room and not it's healthy for sleep. So I covered all the window. Okay. No 1% light is coming into my room when I will be sleeping, or when I sleep, basically. Yeah. So that's the very important thing. Darkness. Number two is darken. Number one is regularity. And how you solve the problem of regularity? Alarm clock, using alarm clock. And the second thing is darkness. How you solve the darkness? Maybe you are using window cover or something, whatever your circumstances. Solve that problem immediately, right? Don't sleep on like any opening the door or something like that, and whatever you wanna. But the point is, the darkness is very important for sleep. I will discuss later on maybe deep sleep and stuff. But yeah, for now, sleep, darkness for sleep is very important.
And we need darkness at night, as well you've spoken about, to release a hormone called melatonin. And melatonin will help time the regular onset of your sleep. So that sounds great, but what, boots on the ground, Matt, what does that mean? I would suggest the following. In the last hour before bed, try to dim down 50%, if not more, of your lights in your home. And you will be quite surprised at how sleepy and soporific that will make you feel. I will do this in a regimented way. I have a little reminder that pops up and tells me now is the time to dim the lights based on your bedtime. And I'll go around and I'll shut lights down. In my bedroom, I will actually have a small light bulb, and it is way down to probably as little as maybe 5 lux. And lux is just a metric of the light. It's way.
So lux is the unit of measuring the light. Okay. 5 lux is very. You can measure by using your camera, or there are various apps into the Play Store. Just search lux light measuring, something like that. Just search on Play Store. Previously I already installed an app, and that app measured the light lux. So yeah, install that app and try to experiment with your light, how many lux are there into your light, and try to experiment that out. Okay.
Way down there, and it's also very deep orange, sort of red, and we can come on to why that's the case. So that's the first thing. Even before you're thinking about sleep, start to decrease the light. For example, if you were there at, let's say, for a standard sleep schedule at 10 p.m., and normally you are getting into bed at 10:30 p.m., but you feel pretty wide awake, if there was an electrical blackout and you lost your phone, magnetic too. Phone goes down, lights go down, total blackout. My suspicion is that fairly soon you'd say, gosh, I actually feel quite sleepy. Whereas if the lights were blazing, you've got your phone, television's on, lots of stimulation, you're probably going to think 10:30. No, I could probably.
Okay, so what I used to do, when after like 11 or 12 p.m., I try to turn off some light. Okay, like this light, this main light of my room, and obviously there is some router lights, louder, very dangerous blue light. I turn off the router blue light when I go to sleep, maybe after the 12 a.m., right? Basically, after the 12 or 1 a.m., I am journaling. Basically, there is no light, no something. I stare at the wall, or I can work. Basically, I expressing my emotion. But I will discuss later on, like what is my actual routine and how I have been improving my sleep routine, sleep sleep hygiene. Yeah. So that's the thing. And in my future edition, when I got some money, I will buy a dim table light, and in the night, when whatever I do in the night time, writing or anything, I will on the dim light, and I will turn off the main light, because main light is not. This is too bright. If you check the lux, this is too high. Maybe I don't know, but I assume maybe 1000, 2000 lux in this light, because this is too bright. So it's not good for your sleep. So you have to, actually I have to buy a dim light, and this lux is very, should low. Okay, so yeah.
Probably push through for at least another hour. So try to dissipate that light. And then, if you need to, wear an eye mask. Blackout curtains, always good as well. But we need that dark.
So they are suggesting the eye mask. So I used it, eye mask, but the sad story is when I wear the eye mask, I feel little bit, what would I say? Little bit anxious, or like something that tied into my head, or I'm not feeling very free actually. So might be this is the reason of the mask. This is low quality mask I bought from local market. This is too cheap. So maybe that reason. Or however, I will try a very branded, very high quality mask. Okay, but yeah, I tried it, the cheap mask, and this doesn't work on me. But yeah, you can also try. Okay, because the important part is darkness is very important. And when you wear the eye mask, there are maybe lots of light will disappear. Most of the 99% of the light disappear when you wear the eye mask. Eye mask is very helpful in the scientific way. But if you feel tight or something, not free, then don't wear. But yeah, if you feel comfortable with your mask while you wearing the mask, you can do. Okay, you can wear.
Darkness at night, because when you give the brain the signal of darkness, it releases effectively a brake pedal. That brake pedal has normally been applied by way of light on the release of that spigot of melatonin. And when you take the brake pedal off, it starts.
So, if you don't know what is melatonin, and if you don't know the relation between melatonin and sleep, so let me search. Okay, let me show you what is the relation between melatonin So if you like want to see, so they are saying that the longer the night, the longer your pineal gland secretes metabolism, because the melatonin has often been referred as a sleep hormone. While melatonin isn't essential for sleeping, you sleep better when you have the highest level of melatonin in your body. So melatonin is a hormone produced by the brain in response to darkness. It helps regulate the body's circadian rhythm and blah blah blah. So the point is, melatonin is released when you in the darkness area, and melatonin hormone is needed for your sleep. Like you need melatonin hormone for sleep, and melatonin will release when you are in a darkness area or whatever, right? What area or room actually. So yeah, this is the role of melatonin.
That's pumping out into the brain. You can also then, of course, probably reverse engineer this trick in the morning. And this is another component of why you've been, I think, such a wonderful advocate for light in the morning. It does many things, but one of the things that it does is reapply that brake on melatonin, and therefore you lose the signal to your brain of darkness. That's what melatonin in some ways is doing. We often call it the hormone of darkness or the vampire hormone, not necessarily because it makes you look longingly at people's necklines and want to bite in, which is great if you're into that, but it's really simply about it's releasing melatonin, which tells the brain, my goodness, it's nighttime. But if you've got bright light on, you come from your office, you're driving home, so you've got artificial light during the day, which is probably not strong enough to stimulate you and bring you awake. You come home and you've got, again, bright light, but it's still strong enough now to prevent the release of melatonin. You start to shift in your timing, and you may have problems with your sleep. So that's the second piece of advice. I would love to ask you about that morning light too, and the alertness benefits. I'm, as a sleep researcher, more focused on the evening component of light and decreasing it, but you've done a great job. I don't know if there's anything.
Yeah, there are a couple of quick points that are based on some, what I consider really nice studies. There's beautiful work in humans showing that bright light exposure in the morning, especially from sunlight, but if one doesn't have access to sunlight for whatever reason, there are commercially available so-called SAD lamps, seasonal affective disorder lamps. They range anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 lux, very bright.
Wow, yeah.
But certainly morning sunlight viewing and lamps of the sort I just described have been shown to increase the amplitude of the morning cortisol spike by as much as 50%. 50. So people hear cortisol and they freak out. They think that's not good. I want my cortisol low. But you actually want your cortisol highest in the morning and lower in the afternoon and evening.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of reasons for that: elevated mood, focus, and alertness in the morning and throughout the day, and ease of getting to sleep at night, lower anxiety, lower depressive symptoms, and so on. So that bright light also serves to control the amplitude of cortisol in the direction you want in the early part of the day. The other thing that's just more of a underlying dynamics of the circadian visual system, which is a system that I worked on for years, these wonderful cells in the eyes that are not for image forming, but rather for detecting sunlight and bright light for sake of setting circadian rhythm, is that the sensitivity of that system early in the day is actually quite low. So you need a lot of bright light early in the day to effectively wake up your system and shut down the sleepiness signals, such as melatonin. But later in the day, it's a rather diabolical system. It takes very little light, even from artificial sources, to disrupt your circadian rhythm and quash melatonin. As little as 15 seconds of bright light in the evening, I think Chuck Zeisler's laboratory at Harvard Medical School showed, can quash melatonin in the evening. Now, I don't want people to freak out and think that if they go into a hotel bathroom, which oftentimes those are very bright, in the middle of the night, flip on the light, that they're going to completely screw up their circadian rhythms. But if I'm honest, they'd be much better off using their phone as a flashlight to navigate. People always say, well, wait, but the flashlight on the phone is very bright. But let's just get logical here. a light shone into your eyes, such as a flashlight, is very different than looking at a flashlight beam on the ground.
Yeah.
Far and away difference.
Yeah, so basically when in midnight, when you turn on your room light, okay, it's better you turn on your flashlight, right? Because logically there are lots of lux directly into your eye. But if you turn on your flashlight, the lux will be going through the outside, not directly into your eye. So, yeah, that's very helpful to turn on your flashlight either turn on your room light.
So the point is that if you don't get enough bright sunlight or light in your eyes early in the day, and then you're indoors under artificial lighting, you might think, well, this is really bright lighting. This is the kind of lighting that could disrupt my circadian rhythm at night, and therefore it's sufficient to wake up my system. No. Early in the day and throughout the day, you need a lot of bright light, as much as safely possible to avoid sunburn and things of that sort, which you don't want. But then as the evening comes around, after sundown, you need very little artificial light.
Yeah, so that's the important point, that when sunrise, after morning, you need more and more and more light. Okay, for your focus, for your happiness, for your creativity, whatever, your work, right? And after evening, you need more and more and more and more and more darkness. Dark light, not light, dark actually. I'm not deep dive into the word and grammar, but yeah. So, you got my point.
In order to disrupt your circadian rhythm. And then just very quickly, light from candles, fireplaces is okay. This is kind of interesting. It seems bright, but the measurements indicate that that's not going to shift your circadian rhythm much. Candles are great, but of course don't burn your house down. So the orange and red tones in the evening, way dimmed down, that's the way to go. Early in the day, bright light, as bright as you safely can tolerate.
And what I like about, firstly, your mention of cortisol, you described how cortisol...
Okay, so one hack I can do, till buy the dim light, because this is too expensive. I can buy candle. So yeah, sure, today when I finish this live stream, I go to the shop, and I will buy the candle, and I light on the candle.
is rising in the morning, and that's a great thing, and it is a good thing. And in the evening, it's starting to drop. And if you look right around your prototypical bedtime, and we're going to speak later in this episode as to what your real natural bedtime is versus the one that you may be taking right now, it's very interesting. Cortisol will almost hit its lowest point, something that we call its nadir. It's the lowest point in that trough of its decline, right around the time when you should be sleeping. However, there's a great study that looked at people with insomnia, and in subsequent episodes we'll discuss this too, but one of the ways that we think about or conceptualize insomnia is in two different flavors: sleep onset insomnia, I can't fall asleep, and sleep maintenance insomnia, I wake up, I can't get back to sleep.
Would I avoid insomnia? Very important.
Insomnia is in two different flavors: sleep onset insomnia, I can't fall asleep, and sleep maintenance insomnia, I wake up, I can't get back to sleep.
So when you wake up, you need you can't get back into the sleep. This is very dangerous insomnia.
Sleep. And what they looked at was essentially cortisol levels. They had a catheter in the arm, and they were sampling it from the bloodstream, and they were able to do that every 30 minutes. So it's a little bit like time-lapse photography, and you're getting a data point every 30 minutes across the 24-hour period, looking at cortisol across now a full 24-hour period. And sure enough, when you look at healthy controls who can sleep well and insomnia patients, they look almost identical across the day. But then when it comes to falling asleep right around that bedtime period, the healthy controls are going all the way down. The insomnia patients go down and down and down, and then they have a rise back up right around that sleep onset period. And then they start to drop back down again, just as the control group. But then they also often will have a spike in the middle of the night, which then comes down. And then both of them are staying low throughout the early morning period, and then it starts to rise back up. So it's not as though net overall there is a...
So basically, he's saying that cortisol level and the control phenomena of the cortisol is not quite good for the insomnia patient. Okay, this is like this graph. So down, then up, something like that. So this is unhealthy, right? When you sleep and your cortisol level is like this, you need to wake up, then you can't get back into the sleep. This kind of thing will happen of the insomnia patient, okay, with the insomnia patient. So yeah, good point.
A higher level of cortisol in people with insomnia. It seems to be right at those trigger zones that map very nicely to sleep onset problems and sleep maintenance problems.
Very interesting. As somebody who wakes up in the middle of the night and sometimes has trouble getting back to sleep, that resonates. I have no trouble falling asleep whatsoever.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. I'm superstitious about this at this point. But I use tools like non-sleep deep rest, yoga nidra, long exhale breathing. But, and I think these wake up episodes seem to happen more when I'm processing a lot of stuff from my daily life.
That's right.
It's the unconscious brain oftentimes is working through things and will wake us up.
Yeah, I often think that sleep maintenance insomnia that you've just described is the revenge of daytime emotions unresolved.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
So that would be, so we've spoken about regularity, we've spoken about darkness, and we've spoken about the inverse of that in the morning, which is light, a little bit of cortisol. So the third out of the 5 is going to be temperature. And the advice here is keep it cool. So we've spoken about regularity, we've spoken about darkness, and we've spoken about the inverse of that in the morning, which is light, a little bit of cortisol.
So in morning you need light, so these 3 things. And darkness and regularity. Okay.
So the third out of the 5 is going to be temperature. And the advice here is keep it cool. As we mentioned a little bit in the first episode, and we will go into great detail when we speak not just about these conventional and unconventional tips, but we're also going to go into the future of science and where sleep science is taking us to, in fact, optimize and even enhance our sleep. We will speak a lot about temperature. Suffice to say that you need to drop your core body temperature and your brain temperature by a little less than 1 degree Celsius, 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit, to get to sleep and stay asleep. The general target that we have in sleep science, if you look across the literature, is somewhere around about the 67 degree Fahrenheit, or I'm trying to do the calculation, maybe 18.5-ish degrees Celsius. Now, I know that sounds cold, and cold it is, but you can also wear thick socks to bed. You can have a hot water bottle at the end of the bed. That's great too, but the ambient must be cold. The 4th piece of advice is walk it out.
So cold, your room need to be cold. So I saw another podcast of Dr. Huberman about sleep, and he said that your room temperature should be 18 degree or less, maybe 15. I don't know the range, the less range, but I forget about the range in the down to earth. But the high range should be 18 degree, right? So your room temperature should be 18 degree Celsius or less. That's his advice, and I hope that he also tells some number. about temperature.
And here, what I mean is, do not stay in bed for long periods of time awake. And
Yeah,
think
that's the fucking important thing, and I realized that thing. Okay, so the thing is, uh, I used to, I used to scrolling social media on my bed when I lying down in my bed, and yeah, actually I used to scrolling social media, but I realized that I simply calculate the math in my mind or head that if I scrolling social media when I lying into the bed, that's mean if I turn off the, I mean when I will be sleeping, that's mean I dream some kind of things that I am scrolling social media and this kind of things will happening in my brain. So when I try to go to sleep, my mind form a habit that you need to scroll social media. You don't like sleep or whatever. You know the dangerous habit of the social media, right? So don't uh, don't scroll social media lying to the bed. Don't watch any movie lying to the bed. This kind of things is very bad. So the moral point is already he said that don't wake too much time while you lying into your bed. That's the very good advice. Don't do that. Don't advise actually. Yeah.
we mentioned this perhaps in the first episode too. When you are awake in your bed for long stretches of time, because your brain is an incredibly associative device, it will quickly learn that this thing called my bed is the place where I'm awake and not asleep. And what you need to do is break that association. If you've learned that time and time again because you've stayed in bed, and the rule of thumb, it's just a rule of thumb, about 20, 25 minutes, if you can't fall back asleep or you can't fall asleep, it's okay. Just say, look, tonight is not my night. It's not a problem. Tomorrow is not completely shot. It's fine. I'm just going to get up, get out of bed. If you can, if you're lucky enough, try to go to a different room and in dim light, read a book, listen to a podcast, whatever it is that relaxes you, just do that. Don't check email, don't eat, because if you start eating, that again trains your brain to start waking up and feeding at that time. And only return to bed when you are sleepy. And there is no time limit for that. I don't want you to come back after half an hour when you are still awake and not feeling sleepy enough. Why?
So let me tell you a story or history of my sleep routine. Okay. So for the last 1 year, maybe 1 or 2 year, not only just 1 year, maybe 2 year, I have been trying to be a morning person. So I don't enough any wisdom or knowledge about chronotype. So I try to be a morning person. Okay. And that's why I used to get into bed at 10 a.m. maybe sometime 9 a.m. Okay, and then what happened is I try to sleep, I try to fall in sleep, but I don't. I wake up till 12, 1, maybe sometime 2, maybe sometime 3, 9 to 3. Okay, the highest peak, the wake up state, not daily, but yeah, some day. But the problem is 3 to maybe 9 a.m., 3 a.m. to 9 a.m. I sleep actually, and then I don't feel very energetic. You see the result, 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. I waste this time of period, but I don't feel energetic or my sleep is not fully cleared. So the moral story is don't wake up. I mean, don't Don't lie into the bed when you are waking state. Yeah.
because you're going to get back into bed and be in the same problem again. And gradually, if you do this, and it's hard to do it, you will relearn the association that you had, I'm sure, as a child, which is that your bed is this place of sleepiness. Because often people will be saying, I feel so tired in the evening. And then they get into bed and they say, but now I can't fall asleep at all. And I don't understand it. In part, it's because of that learned association. So that would be the fourth tip. The fifth tip makes me even more unpopular as a personality and character, which is try to be mindful of your alcohol and caffeine. Now, in a subsequent episode, we'll go into great detail as to how caffeine works, its mechanisms, why it is sleep disruptive, and why, in fact, I've even perhaps changed my mind on caffeine and its benefits, but it also does have significant detriments to your sleep. So the rule of thumb here would be try to cut yourself off from caffeine probably at least 10 or so hours before you expect to go to bed, and you can just calculate that and try to limit it. So the dose and the timing make the poison. Cut yourself off after maybe 2 or 3 cups of coffee, and then that timing component, count yourself back, cut yourself off. Decaffeinated coffee, not too bad if you find the right thing to, if you need that fix. Alcohol is probably one of the most misunderstood sleep aids, in quotes, that there is. It is no sleep aid at all. Now, if I didn't understand...
So people think that alcohol is help them to fall in sleep. Yeah, but that's totally wrong. Totally wrong.
what I know about alcohol and sleep, I would think that too, which is, look, when I have a nightcap just before bed or two, even though I don't wear them, I may actually just fall asleep very easily. It feels like I stay asleep very soundly across the night. So it's a great sleep aid, and it really helps me.
What is it?
Too, if you need that fix. Alcohol is probably one of the most misunderstood sleep aids, in quotes, that there is. It is no sleep aid at all. Now, if I didn't understand what I know about alcohol and sleep, I would think that too, which is...
Okay guys, this is break time. Okay, and I'll be back in 10 minutes. And also I need to check the stream that is happening or not. So, okay, I'm coming, okay? Yo. So, okay. So guys, let's start.
For bed or two. Off back, cut yourself off. Decaffeinated coffee, not too bad if you find the right thing to, if you need that fix. Alcohol is probably one of the most misunderstood sleep aids, in quotes, that there is. It is no sleep aid at all. Now, if I didn't understand what I know about alcohol and sleep, I would think that too, which is, look, when I have a nightcap just before bed or two, even though I don't wear them, I may actually just fall asleep very easily. It feels like I stay asleep very soundly across the night. So it's a great sleep aid, and it really helps me. There are at least, I would say, 3 issues with alcohol. The first is that alcohol is in a class of drugs that we call the sedatives. And sedation is not sleep. But when you take on board alcohol in the evening, you mistake the former for the latter, and you think it helps you fall asleep. The second thing is that because it's sedation, or actually it's probably related to sedation, if I were to show you the electrical signature of your deep sleep when you're just sleeping naturally versus when you have alcohol in your system, it's not really the same. It's not a naturalistic form of deep sleep. It mimics.
Okay, so when you drink the alcohol and sleep, then your brainwave during the deep sleep, the versus your natural sleep, the two graph are same. Okay.
Mix it. It looks not too dissimilar. But if I really do my analyses and I almost like that Pink Floyd album where I take the white light of electrical brain activity coming from your head as you're sleeping and split it apart into all of the different components, there are some components that are no longer present or some that are abnormally present. The second issue with alcohol is that it fragments your sleep. So it will litter your sleep with all these punctuated awakenings throughout the night. The danger there is that many of those awakenings with alcohol you don't remember because they're too brief. But then you wake up the next day and you think, well, I didn't have a problem falling asleep. I didn't have a problem staying asleep. But I feel rough. I just don't feel restored by my sleep. And you don't add 2 and 2 together. The final concern with alcohol is that it's quite a potent blocker of your rapid eye movement sleep or REM sleep. And in subsequent episodes, we'll go into great detail as to the incredible learning and memory, creativity benefits that.
So those who don't know about REM sleep is basically rapid eye movement sleep, where your during the sleep your eye is basically moving, and we will discuss further. And in the episode 1, we already discussed about REM sleep. So yeah, you can watch that out. And by the way, we will discuss further about REM sleep and deep dive into the REM sleep. Okay, don't worry about it.
And by way of REM sleep, also, it's essential for our emotional regulation and recalibrating our moods. So, for all of those reasons, I would say 2 things. First, if you are struggling with sleep, not feeling restored by your sleep, keep in mind your alcohol intake, and also just in general, be mindful of that if you are thinking about your sleep and want to.
Okay, so if you want to search on internet that what is search a keyword only. Okay, so Google don't need the exact grammar, right? And what is the relation? Just I simply search what is the relation, simply just search. Oh fuck, no, I don't want to search this. And what is the relationship between sleep and this kind of things. Okay? Format is very important. Yeah. So, what is the connection worker makes between sleep and creativity? It's not the real. I mean, it's too. Okay, this is the right thing. So both alcohol and caffeine are negatively affect your sleep quality. That's mean those two are bad. Okay, but it doesn't mean that you don't like seek those things. It simply means that I mean now I used to take tea on morning, but I didn't take tea at evening because evening is too close to sleep, right? So that's why I used to take caffeine at morning because not I used to, yeah, I used to take caffeine in morning. Actually, I want to tell you that I used to take not coffee. I take actually tea, and these two are same. Basically, coffee is too strong while talking about the caffeine. Yeah, but the thing is, those two are negatively impact your sleep quality. Alcohol can reduce subjective sleep quality, causes people to wake up more during the night. It can also suppress REM sleep during. Already talked about. He talked about the REM sleep. It's very effect on your REM sleep, right? So yeah, it's also suppress the REM sleep during the early in the middle stage of your sleep. So REM sleep is basically happen on middle stage of your sleep. And research from 2021 found that the higher alcohol consumed is linked to the shorter sleep duration, a poor sleep quality. Alcohol can also disrupt circadian rhythm and causes breathing release sleep issue. So lot of things. Okay. So basically, moral of the story and the moral line is alcohol and caffeine are bad, but we'll see how to normally see them. Okay.
Preserve it.
So much of what you just said resonates. I confess that in my lifetime, I've had periods of pretty spectacular sleep. I characterize myself as somebody that could fall asleep anywhere, anytime. But I've also experienced the extreme challenges of sleep. And that relates to different things, life circumstances, et cetera. In fact, recently I've had some challenges with sleep, despite using the protocols that I and others suggest. I hadn't heard some of the things that you're referring to here. And
good point. Sleep association, bed versus sofa.
middle of the night waking has become more of an issue. I communicated this to a former girlfriend of mine who I was in relationship with when I was a junior professor, meaning before I got tenure. And she said, "You don't remember. You had Andrew, but I do. You had a pattern back then of after I would fall asleep, you would continue working on your laptop, probably on grants, and then I would fall asleep working. And then, according to her, I would wake up in the middle of the night and work a little bit until I'd get tired again and then fall asleep, and then this would repeat. So really stamping down the associative learning element that you talked about before. So that was probably the first period of time in my life in which I created this rather deleterious association of work in the middle of the night in bed, right? And then more recently, I've had the experience of waking up, probably due to these like daytime things that I'm waking up in the middle of the night thinking about. And now, because of our discussion during the course of recording this series, I get out of bed after even 10, 15 minutes so that I can start to eliminate that association. And another piece is that I've always felt that when I get out of bed in the middle of the night because I can't sleep and I go to the sofa, I often can sleep very well.
And the reason being,
right, it's a control experiment, proving that the location of sleep is the association of wakefulness and sleep in bed as opposed to on the sofa is a clear component. And this is in an environment that's of equal temperature. I mean, it's not a perfect experiment, right? It's anecdata, as we say. But I think that the associative piece is so strong for many people. And so this is something to really take seriously.
I love that notion of, and people will often say, I just get up, I go to the couch or the sofa, and that's where I'll wake up in the morning. Also, they'll say, when I travel and I go to a hotel room, I just can sleep fine. Now, for some people, it's the inverse, but for those people, it's the contextual difference, meaning the change of the environment is so unfamiliar that it has not been bound to the association of wakefulness. It's related to sleep, or at least the opportunity to sleep. Sometimes even I've heard from some people, and there's no studies or data on this, even turning yourself around. Now, this is hard if you have a partner in bed, but you just switch top to bottom of the bed, and you take your pillow and you pull the duvet all the way down, and you put the pillow at the opposite end where your feet used to be, and you get into bed. And even just looking around and sort of having a difference, that alone is so subtle, but it can make a real difference. So again, just keep these things in mind. I know it sounds strange, or this whole sort of get up, get out of bed, break the association. And we'll come on to something. Well, actually, I'll come on to it now because I think it's one of the unconventional tips, and you mentioned it. A lot of people say to me, that all sounds great. The science makes sense. I just don't. It's dark. It's kind of cold. I really don't want to get out of bed. So give me some alternatives. I think the single best piece of unconventional sleep advice I can give you is do anything that gets your mind off itself. The principal reason that if you look at insomnia as a physiological condition, our current working model mechanistically of how insomnia plays out, is that you are in this state of almost low-level anxiety, and you are somewhat stressed. And when you go to sleep, or you try to go to sleep, or you wake back up and you try to get back to sleep, you just have this Rolodex of anxiety. In the modern world, we are constantly on reception, and very rarely do we do
Yeah. So actually, he's saying that the anxiety about sleep is very dangerous. So I feel also when I was like struggling with the sleep, what to do, what don't, what to do nothing, something like that. So I confused about that, right? So the thing is, he said that do whatever your mind will be turned off or offline. That's when you need to sleep, or you will sleep actually. Yeah. So because if your mind got tight, right, you very anxious, very like tight feelings in your belly or in your body sensation, right, then you can't sleep. You can't sleep, right? If you think that for your sleep initial day, if you think that you need a movie, then you go to bed and then you fall asleep easily and watch that movie. But I suggest you take a chair, table, and see the movie in this posture actually. I mean, take the seat and watch the movie. Don't lie into the bed and watch the movie. The entertainment basically is saying these things. Okay. So there are interesting tools they will be providing these things you can see in some minute. That is tool for falling asleep, meditation and breathing. Let's see.
reflection. And unfortunately for many of us, and I've been guilty of this, the only time we do reflection is when our head is placed on the pillow and we turn the light out, and that is the last time you want to be doing reflection. That's the worst moment. And at that point, I think everyone can empathize with the idea of you turn the light out, you're under stress, your mind goes to those few things. In the darkness of night, thoughts become almost 10 times worse than they do in the bright of day. And at that moment, you start to ruminate. When you ruminate, you begin to catastrophize. And when you catastrophize, you're dead in the water for the next 2 hours. So what do? The problem is, as I said, your mind is on itself. And it's going...
So the too dark light is a problem of the insomnia or whatever thinking related problem. Okay. So if your room is too dark, I have a story about that. That is when my mind is too my mind was wandering very badly in maybe 6 months ago or 1 year ago. At that time, I used to close my eyes. Then every thought actually very goes first, and I'm very anxious at that point. Then I open my eyes. If I see any light, then my mind wandering is decreasing. If I don't see any light and the room is completely dark, then my mind also wandering very my mind wandering very quickly. My mind wandering graph increases. So that's the thing, and that's a phenomenon. Then what I used to do, I used to turn on the maybe my door. Then some light coming into my room, and I saw that light, and my mind wandering is decreasing. Then I turn off. Then I fall sleepy. Then I turn off the door and go to the sleep and quickly fall into the sleep. So that's a very point you mentioned.
Through these repeated loops, anything you can do, for example, you can do some kind of a meditation. And when I was researching data for my book some years ago, I did look into meditation, and
And what form of meditation I was doing at that time? It's like object meditation. I see the light, I see any object that has light, and I see the object just unmeaningfully. I was seeing the object just like that. So yeah, I was doing some kind of meditation.
Wasn't a meditator. I was a hard-nosed scientist and didn't really kind of embrace with that notion or even that group of people. But time and again, I read paper after paper, and the data was very strong, and it was coming from research groups that I respected very much indeed. So I thought, well, okay, I should probably give this a try. And that was 6 years ago. And since then, I now meditate for 10 minutes every single night before bed. I do a guided meditation.
Wow, absolutely fantastic that sleep scientist is doing meditation and practicing spirituality kind of stuff, but not spirituality, but yeah, scientific meditation, 10 minutes every day. That's very impressive, and yeah, I impressed.
I'm not particularly skilled, so I use an app that moves me through that. But you can do whatever meditation you like. That's one example. The second example is you can do breathing methods, because again, you're focused on your breath. And what are you not focused on? Your thoughts. And so anything that will allow you to explore some other focus, maybe it's a body.
But in another series, we will dive deep into the meditation, because I am a meditation guy. I meditate every single day. Someday, some busy schedule. I skip, but I try to meditate every single fucking day. And at the level, I mean, I will talk very detail in the meditation series. We'll learn meditation very soon.
Scan where you start at the top of your head or you start at your feet and you work your way up and you just say, moving through now my neck, what sensations am I feeling? Now into my shoulders, moving down into my chest now. I can feel the ends of my fingers. Am I sensing anything? And when you start doing that or any of these types of things, the next thing that you remember is your alarm going off in the morning because you got your mind off itself. So I would say that that's probably one of the unconventional tips. But let me come back to the conventional. Anything else I've probably missed out or been unclear about there? Actually, I should probably say one thing in terms of these. They're not tips. I don't like the word. I know you don't either, or hacks, or these are protocols, and they're well-informed scientific protocols. In all of this discussion today, you can get all of these things in place and still have problems with sleep. The reason is because you may be suffering from a sleep disorder. So the analogy would be, let's say that I'm your athletic coach and you're a sports superstar. I can perfect everything. I can perfect your diet, your supplements. We can perfect your technique. We can perfect. But if you've got a broken ankle, none of those things are going to alter your performance right now. You've got to get to a doctor and get that seen to, and then we can come back to fine-tuning your performance. It's the same with sleep. If you've got a sleep disorder, such as snoring, sleep apnea, or insomnia, we need to get you to a doctor first, and then only after that, come back once you're resolved, then we can start to optimize. That's the only other thing I probably should mention.
Yeah, this is all very...
Very good point you mentioned, that if you have very problem with your sleep, then please first go to the doctor, treatment first, and then the basic foundation of sleep will fix, and then come into this series or podcast or whatever. Then we can optimize your sleep very quickly, and then your mind, your brain, your body will be a very high level, and you will be a superhuman. That's the goal. That's the fucking goal.
Very useful discussion, because I think that, of course, there will be those folks out there that just like, what are they talking about? I sleep so well at night. Consider yourself blessed. Many, many people struggle with challenges with sleep, and I think it's fair to say that sooner or later, most everybody experiences some challenges with sleep for whatever reason.
If you look at the statistics, that's highly likely. In your lifetime, you are more than likely to go through either a period of challenging sleep or, in fact, a bout of insomnia.
I'd like to take a brief break and acknowledge our sponsor. You talked about alcohol. I'm not a consumer of alcohol anymore.
Nor am I, and it's not because I have anything against it.
Yeah, many people do enjoy it, and no, we're not calling judgment on them. I mean, certainly much of the world enjoys alcohol. Could we talk a little bit more about, aside from demolishing REM sleep, do we know that alcohol causes these disruptions in sleep directly, meaning by changing the pattern of release of neurotransmitters like GABA, things of that sort? Or is this an indirect effect? Is this like through the gut microbiome that then impacts sleep? And the reason I ask is maybe we could get to some more specific do's and do not protocols. So, for instance, if somebody wants to have a cocktail, how close to sleep can they get and not diminish their rapid eye movement sleep too much? Because people are still going to want to drink. And with that said, if people do have a couple of drinks and then they go to sleep, is there anything they can do prior to sleep to try and rescue some of their quality sleep?
Great question. So in terms of the mechanism, it seems actually not to be the alcohol, but some of the metabolic byproducts of alcohol. We think that perhaps the main culprit may be some of the aldehydes that are the metabolic separate consequences of alcohol metabolism. You make a good point, though, in terms of the dose response timing curve. How late or how early do I have to cut myself off from alcohol? People have done those studies, and they have found that even an afternoon single glass of wine, if you measure sleep in the way that we measure it at my center with high fidelity, you can see compromises and impairments. I wish I could tell you otherwise. I would say that based on that data, the principal protocol advice I would have for you is go to the pub in the morning. That way, by the time you're about to sleep, the alcohol is out your system, and you could. No, I would never. As a public scientist, I would never advocate necessarily for morning. I'm just kidding you, but that's
Okay, let's repeat this.
my center with high fidelity. You can see compromises and impairments. I wish I could tell you otherwise. I would say that based on that data, the principal protocol advice I would have for you is go to the pub in the morning. That way, by the time you're about to sleep, the alcohol is out your system, and you could. No, I would never. As a public scientist, I would never advocate necessarily for morning. I'm just kidding you, but that's sort of one of the unfortunate consequences. There does seem to be an impact. To say that there isn't is just me not being truthful about the data. But again, if you think about the trade-off here, if you're going out or you're having friends over and you're going to make an incredible evening of memories and you're going to open a favorite bottle of wine and have a couple of glasses of wine, is your sleep going to be compromised? Yes, it is. But maybe that's worth the trade-off for that specific night. I would just not wish you to, and you've spoken a lot, and so has our dear friend Peter Attier and others, there just doesn't seem to be any safe amount of alcohol. But I would say, think about that trade-off. Simply, however, don't make it a habit that you're doing it, multiple.
Yeah, don't make it habit. That's the point. If any occasion, your birthday or your special close friends, girlfriend's, boyfriend's birthday, or any special occasion, not there are lots of occasions in India, but special occasion. So you can drink, in my opinion, okay, my strong opinion, but don't make it habit. And if you drink, then you have to compromise yourself for sure, for sure. But the point is, yeah, if you want to make some special memory in some special day, you can drink. But again, don't make it habit. Then your life will be
Nights a week or more. That would probably be the advice.
Great.
okay. So guys, this is it for today. Okay, it's almost uh, 1 hour and 22 minutes. So we'll discuss further in this episode. This is part one. Okay, and maybe we need part two, part three, maybe part four. But yeah, stay tuned into this series. We'll discuss more and more and more, and we'll gain more and more and more knowledge. Then we'll experience this knowledge into our daily habit. Then we'll get wisdom. Okay, that's the plan, and that's the goal actually. So yeah, stay tuned for that. See you in the next part.